We're going to talk a little bit here about sequestration. If you've read the heading on this page, you kind of know what I think of sequestration. And as near as I can figure out, that's pretty much what a lot of people around the country in Washington, D.C. think of sequestration too. This vision of doom and gloom that we get from some parts of Washington haven't really panned out too much yet, and the reality is they shouldn't pan out too much. What little we're going to talk about sequestration, there's about 3 important things that we all need to know about sequestration so that when you hear something about it from a bobblehead, you can actually make a wise decision as to what they're saying or what they think they're saying. So, point number 1, and probably the most important part of sequestration, is that half of the money that gets cut out of sequestration is cut from the Department of Defense. Now, I'm going to be one of the first people in the country that says the Department of Defense is historically bloated and probably carries more pork than most other departments in the United States government. So if we're going to make a few cuts, that's not that big a deal. However, if you've been paying attention to the news in the last couple of weeks, and I'm particularly interested in the news out of Syria with their civil war, the news out of a little unrest getting fired up in Jordan, about rockets coming out of the Gaza Strip into Israel from Hamas when the president was there. When we're talking about Iran, their nuclear program, and what they're trying to do with their missile tests. The fact that Egypt is a little bit of a problem now. Libya still hasn't been totally ironed out. That's in the Middle East, ladies and gentlemen. We're also looking at problems in the Korean Peninsula with the moves that North Korea has been making in the last week or two, and the United States response to that. We're looking at China firing on Vietnamese vessels in the South China Sea over fishing and probably energy rights. A lot of unrest going on in this world, ladies and gentlemen, for us to just go in with a machete and start chopping on the Department of Defense. We're going to need to spend some time carefully deciding what we're going to spend instead of trying to politicize it using ideology or whatever else we're using right now. I don't have a problem cutting defense. I don't think you do either. But if the cut in defense happens to be a carrier fleet that we should have in the Persian Gulf or the Mediterranean, and we're not cutting the $12 a gallon biofuels to Navy ships instead of converting back to $4 a gallon diesel, these are the kind of things we need to take a look at. Their cuts are one thing, stupid's another. And I don't know about you, but I don't do stupid. Just a thought. Second thing I'll tell you about sequestration is the total cuts to the American government are between 1.5% and 2%. And Washington are crying like babies that haven't had a bottle in 4 hours. Now, folks, January 1st of this year, if you were an American and still had a job, you got a 2% reduction in your paycheck, and you will continue to get a 2% reduction in your paycheck for the remainder of the year or better. And the reason is because the payroll tax holiday that you were given 2, 3, 4 years ago basically has run out. And so you're going to lose an additional 2% out of your paycheck every week or every 2 weeks or every month from now on. Now, the government, with regards to that 2% reduction in your paycheck, has basically told you to sit down stop whining and cowboy up, because that's the way it is. Well, if the government just took a 1.5% to 2% cut in their paycheck, I don't have a problem sitting here saying to Washington, D.C., why don't you sit down, be quiet, and cowboy up. It's going to happen. And it's not a bad thing that's happening. That's the second point I would say about it. Now, the third point about it, and if you've been paying any attention at all, I know you've heard this, or parts of it, or no parts of it, is that the president's decided, up until yesterday anyway, that we're going to do this straight across the board thing, and that's just it. Of course, yesterday, as I understand it, he gave the United States Department of Agriculture a pass on sequester. Doesn't take too long to figure out that the reason that was done is that the vast majority of the USDA's budget is in the SNAP program, otherwise known as food stamps. Now, I can tell you right now that President Obama is not going to put those people that are on food stamps in any kind of a possible situation that they might suffer. Which brings me to the meat of the third point. In the absence of a budget, ladies and gentlemen, and we have not had a budget in 4 years, but in the absence of a budget, the president has the power and the authority to move money around within departments. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, that means that the president can't take money from Yellowstone Park and give it to the military. But he can move money around within the Department of the Defense as he sees fit to do so, in the absence of a budget, which we don't have and we're not going to have until at least 2013. We are once again operating under a, you guessed it, continuing resolution. Okay. This is basically the 3 points that we all need to understand about sequester. So, when you hear about it, when the bobblehead starts talking about it, you can iron through what that man's saying and decide whether what he's saying is the truth or perhaps another misunderstanding. Your choice, ladies and gentlemen. Now, don't forget your pennies. We still got things to do. We're just getting started here. Thank you, folks. Have a good day.